for justice, we'll fight for peace. No more discrimination, let love increase. We'll protect the planet, heal the earth.
Hello, everyone. This is Judy Ambrose James, and welcome to Generational Turnaround Podcast. Now, look, this is episode 2. Episode 1 was me by myself, and I explained everything what generational turnaround is all about. So I'm not going to waste any time on that now. If you didn't see it, go back to number 1 because I want to introduce my special guest, Mitzi Megaby. And if I got that wrong, she will correct it, okay? And look, this is a special time because we are against the death penalty. And that has a whole lot to do with what generational turnaround is all about. We are losing our young minority, especially men, to the system. And we can no longer just sit back and hope that somebody will fix it. It's not that, it doesn't work that way. It's going to take all of us, and I'm talking about Mississippi, but I mean, these southern states are taking our young men, sending them to prison for life without parole and or the death penalty. And so I have a special guest, Missy, who is an advocate against the death penalty. And her husband is in Parchment. They gave him life without the possibility of parole. So I'm going to ask Mitzi to unmute, and she's going to tell you what's going on, how you can help, and whatever else she wants to say. Mitzi, hello, hello.
Hey, how are you tonight? Mitzi Megaby, that's perfect.
Thank you, Mitzi. I am blessed and I am highly favored. You know, Mitzi, that's the first thing that we have. We have to have forgiveness. Do you agree? There's got to be some forgiveness in all of this.
There has to be forgiveness. It doesn't really benefit the person that perpetrated the crime or the incident, but it does help the person forgiving. God tells us we must forgive. It's on us to do so. And when we talk about the death penalty, people are quick to bring up an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I remember God saying, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." So we have no right as a state to take another person's life. It's murder, plain and clear murder.
That makes the person taking the life no better than the one that did the crime.
Correct. That is so true. And what we just witnessed in Alabama this week was a travesty to the world. The United Nations called on Alabama not to do the execution. They tried a new form of executing someone that with nitrogen. They basically smothered this man to death. It took 22 minutes for him to die, an agonizing death. And some people say, well, did he think about his victim? You know what? He was a different man now. That was 35 years ago, and the man had changed his life. Henceforth, we need redemption and we need forgiveness, and that will make our society a better place. By all accounts, the man had changed his life and had turned everything around. And then for us or Alabama as a state to torture the man to death, it makes them no better than a murderer, a common criminal murderer.
And what gives them the right to say, this is the way this man is gonna go out. We're gonna take him out as horrible and as difficult as possible. What gives them the right to say and go to sleep at night and feel good about what they've done?
I can see I can see that they have no right, and I don't know how they sleep at night. But the horrible thing about what has happened in Alabama is now, since it happened and it was done, the Mississippi and Oklahoma can now use this torturous form of execution. We are now one of 3 states that can take a human being and torture them for more than 20 minutes while we smother them.
And 2 to 10% of convicted individuals in the U.S. prison are innocent. And that includes people on death row that have been proven that they were innocent after their death. Is there any truth to that, Mitzi?
There is truth to that. There are people that have been executed and then it's been found to see that they were not guilty. But you cannot bring back a dead person.
That's right.
And there's no room for mistake when you as a society say kill them because they are guilty. There's no room for mistake, and we are humans and we make mistakes. So therefore, we shouldn't even have this law. And also, I want to touch on when you sentence somebody to life without parole, you are sentencing them to the death penalty. They will die in prison. There are men that I know that have been in prison for 30, 40, 55 years. And the one that has been in prison for 55 years got there when he was 16 years old. He was a child. He his brain was not formed, and he is still paying for one mistake he made as a juvenile.
My God. And it doesn't matter if he remembers it, if he remembered taking part of it, still he's going to forever be in that prison until the day he dies. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. We in Mississippi have the the disgrace of being the most incarcerated per capita in the world. Mississippi has the highest incarceration rate, and that's not right. It's not right at all. We we have to be more proactive. We have to offer mental health and examples and programs for our children as they're coming up. We have to stop what's going on now. We have to.
Well, Mitzi, I'm worried about our young people who are being incarcerated rapidly. But you know what? It has always been young people, has it not?
That seems to be the trend. And again, we have to go back to their brains. The impulse part of their brain has not developed fully. And they're more likely to go off impulse uh, when they're 25 and younger. That's why if they do make a mistake and they do end up in prison, that prison needs to be equipped with correction methods. They need to teach them, they need to have schools, they need to have moral lessons, they need to prepare them to go back out into society and not make the mistakes they made to get them there. That's where we are failing as a state and as a nation.
What about other countries? Are you familiar with the techniques that other countries are using?
Well, I have read about Sweden. Sweden has the about the least crime in the world. Their prisons are set up almost like a, a dorm room at a college. I've seen pictures of their cells. It is set up in a neighborhood type setting. Of course, it's behind walls, but each cell block is more like a neighborhood. Everybody is assigned jobs, um, and they do their jobs to be good neighbors to each other. Um, they do not have the death penalty. They do not have life without parole. The longest they hold a prisoner is 20 years, and they do have a psychological test before they let them go back into society. And if they cannot pass the psychological test, then they do go to a mental institution. But the way they're set up is you do your jobs, you go to school. If you have no trade, you learn a trade. If you have no education, you get an education. And then you're prepared to go back into society and be a contributing member of society. And it seems to work well for them because now they have one of the lowest recidivism rates and one of the lowest crime rate rates in the whole world.
Now, that's to me is the ultimate of what you want to happen after a person goes to prison. You don't want them to stay there forever. You want, isn't it called Mississippi something of correction? What's the name?
Mississippi Department of Corrections, not Mississippi Department of Punishment. It's Mississippi Department of Corrections. Corrections, which means we have to correct the problem, not punish the problem, correct the problem. Yes, hold them, but teach them.
And so for Mississippi to name it the Department of Correction, there's either that was just a facade to make it sound good, that that's what they intended, or what? Why was it called that if they want to just can keep them people a person for 20, 30 years and then still take their life? What?
And then still take their life. And Department of Corrections, that's the name of every state's um, prison system is Department of Corrections, but we see very little correction going on. These men and women need to be afforded schooling. They need to be afforded moral compass classes, uh, church of their choice. We shouldn't force any religion on anyone. They should be able to choose their religion and 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 have courses and classes and be assigned work and work together as a community to make the prison system better. And then that way they're taught for when they get out they can be a member of society that's in good standing.
Well, how long have you been an advocate for the death penalty or an advocate at all?
Well, my advocacy for prisoners started probably about 10 years ago that I really got involved. And then last year, about 14 months ago, when Mississippi was going to execute Thomas Loden, um, a national organization called me and they said they couldn't get anybody down here for the execution. Would I please deliver petitions to the governor and to speak to the media about the execution? I did so, and then I got very interested in the dynamics of death row. And I found out that death row is extremely expensive on taxpayers. So, if nothing else, we should do away with death row. If people can't find it in their moral being to get rid of it, then they should look at the fiscal part of it. Death row costs taxpayers about 3 to 4 times more than just regular inmates. I got really interested in the statistics and looking into death row and just wondering why you would sit somebody there and tell them you're here to die and we're going to kill you. We're not even going to let you die naturally. You will die by our hands. And I couldn't imagine that. And so then I started being an advocate for death row and joined the national group Death Penalty Action and worked closely with them on this.
I'm listening to you, and I glanced over at a sheet I had. Since 1973, at least 190 people have been exonerated from death row in the United States.
And say that was 190 people too many condemned to die.
Yes, yes. And what if they had not been exonerated by whatever means? Because they really say that misidentification is one of the leading reasons that they are able to get exonerated. They found misidentification, wrongful convictions, murder exoneration. It's too many possibilities that that person is innocent. And it seems like if 190 people exonerate, that may sound like a small scale, but not if you're one of those 190 people
that were mistaken for somebody else.
Correct. This sounds real personal to you, Mitzi. Why is that?
It's personal to me because we don't have the right to take somebody's life. And also because my husband was convicted of a crime over 25 years ago that he did not commit. And he was sentenced to die in prison, not death row, but life without parole. So he was given a death sentence, but to die naturally in prison. And I believe that's wrong. Um, it's wrong on so many levels. Everybody should get a second chance at life, a second chance to redeem themselves. Um, God doesn't throw us away if we make one mistake. He asks us to work on ourselves and be better. And and I see this in the death row inmates. I see them working on themselves, trying to be better. They have classes now because we have a very progressive um, administration now at Parchman, and they are allowing them to take classes to learn music, to do extracurricular activities, to play athletics, sports, to take creative writing, to do book clubs, to have a small library on death row. We are starting Leaders for Life on death row, where 5 of the men will speak for death row. And it's an association that will come out publicly against the death penalty. And we will start trying to get petitions signed. We hope sometime this year our petitions will come out and we can get petitions signed to go to legislators about ending the death penalty and doing away with death row in Mississippi, abolish it.
I'm going to take a minute and become an advocate for the death penalty. Have you ever talked to anybody, a victim?
I have been on a Zoom conference with Death Penalty Action, and a young woman whose father was murdered. She went to her father's killer's execution. She was all for it. She wanted him to die. She watched him be executed. And then she walked out and it was over. And she said she felt nothing but like somebody took a big scab and pulled it off and it started bleeding again. She felt like that there was no need for her father's killer to be executed because it only opened up old wounds, and she had to find it in her heart to forgive because the hate was festering in her and it was affecting her life. And now she is a worker for abolishing the death penalty because she is a witness to watching an execution, and it hurt her more than it helped her. And she says there's no way anybody should be executed in America because it only hurts the victims' families more.
My God. My God. And that's what I, expected, because I've also heard of different people actually witnessing a person put to death and not getting what they expected to get from being a part of that. And so I want you to tell, how can we join the organization that you are a part of, that you are telling everybody about?
I'm doing the Leaders for Life through my organization called Hooked on Justice Mississippi chapter. We are on Facebook. You just look for Hooked on Justice Mississippi. You ask to join, I'll let you join. And then we will have kind of group meetings from there. And we're going to start sending out newsletters. We're planning on having artwork come out in those newsletters from Death Row. My name is Mitzi Magleby. My email address, if you don't have a Facebook, my email address is mitzimag@yahoo.com. That's mitzimag@yahoo.com. And you're welcome to email me or join us on Facebook.
Well, everybody, I hope if you didn't get that, Mitzi, you said you're on Facebook, your name, one more time.
I'm on Facebook as my name, Mitzi Magleby. My organization is Hooked on Justice Mississippi. And my email is mitzimag@yahoo.com.
And when you said there's 5 inmates on death row, they're putting together an organization. That's a different name, is it not?
No, it's the Leaders for Life.
Yeah.
Leaders for Life is what they're going to call our organization. We decided to make our organization a lot like Alabama's organization. We're going to have the inmates actively be leaders in in our fight to abolish death row because they are human and people need to see the humanity in these men. They're going to advocate for themselves
Right.
and be part of the movement. And I should also mention that we don't just have men on death row, we have a woman on death row. She is housed at CMCF in Pearl, Mississippi, which is a tragedy because she's one woman on death row. She is not housed with any other women. She's in a cell 24 hours a day by herself and sees nobody but the staff that comes to give her her mail and her food.
That's inhuman.
It is
And so she's one woman on death row.
one woman on death row in Mississippi.
Mm. And so what do you find about the administration at Parchment now compared to the administration before?
The administration now, we've seen a big shift. The administration now are God fearing men. It's the superintendent and the deputy superintendent are God fearing men. They have put the prayer back in prison.
Mhm.
They unlike prior administration who locked death row in their cells all day every day, and just let them stay there, and do nothing but sit. This administration has moved forward with Bible classes, creative writing classes, GED, music classes, going to the gym to exercise, being able to draw, being able to write, having a library. They grew a garden this year. So the administration from other administrations are night and day.
Can you tell me about the Innocent Project?
The Innocence Project is a really good project. They just stay so busy that usually it's years and years of waiting to get your case to them, because they're so busy. But they are a great organization, and I encourage anybody incarcerated that's wrongly accused to write to them. And also, they can look up the MacArthur Justice Center, um, who is also like the Innocence Project.
The Innocent Project, is it all around the United States or is it?
Yeah, the Innocence Project is got several stations or offices, if you will, all over the United States. The MacArthur Justice Center is in Mississippi.
I'm going to give you this opportunity to talk to the viewers and leave them with what you would like them to know about death row and the people being unjustly accused and being in prison for years.
What I'd like to say, first of all, about the people that are in prison that are innocent are is that they don't have a fighting chance if they come from poverty. Um, it's just too too often, especially in Mississippi, that if you're not connected and you don't have money, you're going to be found guilty, and then it's even harder to prove your innocence once you're in there, and then it's harder to get parole, and it's harder to get out and flourish because you were stuck in poverty before you went. So, my advice to innocent people in prison is to never give up. Keep writing all these organizations that you can, and one day somebody will listen to you. As far as death row goes, those men are amazing. They're wonderful. They're talented. They are 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 just, you can tell they've all grown as men, and they are men today that you can be proud of. They are not, people get it mistaken that they are some sort of monsters that have to be kept under lock and key. They are not. I go and I see them, and so do other people. Visitors go to see death row. They walk on the zone. You can sit with them. You can talk with them. They are not monsters. They are very intelligent, wonderful. They have they have grown spiritually, mentally, and physically, human beings. And we need to change our perception of you can't change people, because you can change people. God works wonders.
Now that's wonderful, Mitzi, because the bottom line is we you don't know from 1 minute what may happen in your life that turns uh, the person that you were into a different person momentarily, and you end up having to pay for that for the rest of your life if if these states continue to have the last word. Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, they have to be able to see that. But people change. A situation that once made this happen, it could happen to one of them. And
Very
so
easily.
very, very easily. And so, and you can be mistaken identity and end up in prison for 10, 20, 30 years. And you didn't even do the crime. Why should we make it so easy to be put into prison for the rest of your life when there's too big of a chance of mistaken identity? So
And it
I
can
just,
happen to anybody,
it can happen to anybody,
any
and
one of us.
any one of us. And so I want you all, I want you to think about what Missy has said and join her organization. We've got to make a turnaround in these southern states. It's been too long. The same people that's running the states now come from families that's run the states forever. Even when it was not legal to kill young minority people, it was being done. And here it is, 2024, and it's still being done. So, Mitzi, thank you so much for coming on and speaking the truth. You see, we are here. We are seeking the truth and bringing you the proof that all of this that's happening to our young people, we've got to make a change. We're losing too many. So I pray that today is better than yesterday, but it's not as good as tomorrow. I pray that tomorrow that you all open your eyes and see what's going on and who's suffering through all of this.